From Simon Nixon on Twitter, even 8 years later, it's still extraordinary to think that Britain deliberately chose to shrink its domestic market from 450 million people to 65 million on the recommendation of a bunch of liars, charlatans and fools. Yeah, you know what's a very, very strange thing that's happened in the last few years? You have to marvel at the expertise in which the likes of Tobias Ellwood and Christopher Steele and all these other establishment suits have managed to somehow turn the left into everything they used to despise. It's terribly amusing for normal people like us, but it's amazing to see Owen Jones's publication, The Guardian, become the Warmongers Gazette, spouting the exact same lines as the CEO of Lockheed Martin. It's quite an achievement by them. So hats off for that top-tier brainwashing, because do you know who this lefty journalist is talking about here? The difference in the UK on your own now, separate from Europe, it's a small market. David Ricks, CEO of pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly, tells Radio 4 something needs to be quite different to make the UK interesting in the global markets. Yeah, the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. Everybody knows they look out for the little guys. Right then, there's been a few of these on Twitter today, so I obviously documented them for our side-splitting amusement at the ignorance and stupidity of the woke lefty arseholes. Exhibit A was, of course, the aforementioned millionaire white guy in a suit, CEO, who works for a pharmaceutical company. Beloved by all left-wing activists, I'm sure you'll agree. Okay, and there's a few other good examples. Otto English here, as well as being a well-known far-left activist on Twitter who posts 8,000 times a day because he doesn't work for a living. He's fantastic for posting this stuff. And this post, former MI6 head hammers Brexit and says, Britain is now irrelevant. France has eclipsed us. Boo-hoo. Putin will have been delighted by our decision to leave the EU. So will Xi Jinping. Russia is weaker than us, but felt emboldened to invade Ukraine. Yeah, a left-wing activist. Simultaneously pushing the narrative employed by the arms manufacturers that has ensured 800,000 young men have been killed or had their arms and legs blown off. And the former head of MI6, again, a rich white guy in a suit who worked for a spy agency that signs off on covertly murdering people. This is who your average left-wing activist is now a fan of.
Particularly since I've left office and I've travelled around Europe, I'm profoundly depressed. Nobody mentions the UK. We've just made ourselves irrelevant. And this is extraordinary. You know, the beginning part of this century, we were the dominant force.
You know what I'm depressed about, knobhead? It's having to listen to the drivel that professional liars spew on Twitter and seeing a bunch of formerly, misguided, but at least honest, like the old left was actually honest with their convictions. They really did want to help the working class. Now, the modern left, the woke, side with spy masters, politicians, big banks, arms corporations, and the CEOs of pharmaceutical companies. You couldn't make any of this up. And they're slagging off people like RFK Jr., who spent 20 years suing pharmacy manufacturers for lying to the general public and sometimes poisoning them. But he's the bad guy. And you know who we should all look up to now? Rich white guys in suits that sanction state-funded murder. Yeah, Jezza. Jezza loves people like that, doesn't he? He's always loved pharmaceutical CEOs and spy masters. Always. Since as far back as I can remember. Peace and love, no war, man. And everybody praise the spy masters and the politicians and the bankers and the pharmaceutical manufacturers. That's always been the mantra of the left, hasn't it? And here's a last example we can use, Exhibit C. Mark Carney, the former Bank of England governor, says Brexit has destroyed the future for Britain. Listen to his wise words. Yeah, wise words from the governor of the Bank of England. Sorry, beloved of the working classes. The governor of the Bank of England. Let's listen to him, because working class lads, welders and plumbers and bricklayers up and down the country, they love talking about the governor of the Bank of England. Yeah, I've heard it myself. I've seen it with my own eyes. Bin man covered in shite, in the rain, in the middle of winter, carrying a recycling bin full of what is supposed to be cans and bottles, but is, Chicago town pizza boxes and used condoms and fag ends. He'll go on, and he'll stop you during his tea break and say, you know what, I really wish the governor of the Bank of England was in here right now so I could give him a hug, because that is a man who I admire more than any other.
Some right-wing populists that see current anxieties as an opportunity to stoke anger because anger is what's necessary for their project. After all, people don't demolish things when they're positive or optimistic. I know this. I know this from my time in the UK, where for years the rallying cry of Brexiters was broken Britain. And their solution to take back control was actually code for tear down your future.
Just demonstrably wrong commie drivel by another millionaire banker who is apparently beloved by the left these days. They're called conservatives because they like to conserve things. The project to tear things down. That's not a conservative mantra, is it? It's the opposite. Conservative. The clue's in the name. If that was what they like doing, they'd be called the wreck-it-allatives. They aren't. The left destroy, the conservative conserve. And he'd know this. In fact, he does know this because he's not stupid. He's just an activist in a suit. But this is the world we're living in. The modern left worship. I'll just reel them all off. They worship arms manufacturers, big banks, massive corporations, politicians, lords, and the ultra wealthy. They love war. They love misogyny, right? They love importing men who follow a very different ideology, one that says that women shouldn't be allowed to vote. And the greatest man to have ever lived was folding up a 9-year-old. So everything about the alt left has been successfully consumed by very, very clever people. And the ones who cared about the working classes and holding the powerful to account and making the lives better for the poor people, they've vanished. They've almost disappeared. The likes of Tony Benn and Peter Shaw are spinning in the grave like a Merlin engine. They're breakdancing in the box because clever people have managed to consume their ideology and turn it into this woke thing, which is just pure evil and venerates the worst people on earth. And that's about the size of it. You can all remember Brexit. Now they're trying to tell you that Brexit was the rich, when we all remember the run-up to the referendum, and the people that were all pro-Remain were almost all the politicians, all the House of Lords, all the big bankers, all the pharmaceutical companies, all the arms manufacturers. It was all of the big controlling state powers and the people in bed with them. And the people that were pro-Brexit were scaffolders from Hartlepool, bricklayers from Stockton-on-Tees. We all know this. I can reel off the places that voted Brexit without even checking on using Google by how nice they are. If an area's posh, Harrogate, probably Remain. If an area's a dump, Redcar, probably Brexit. But as usual, the woke are gaslighting you and telling you that up is down and left is right and calling you a fascist if you disagree with them. So it is what it is. Anyway, that's my video for the day. If you disagree with me and you think that, it's totally logical for left-wingers and Guardian readers and people who call themselves progressives to be on the same bandwagon as the CEO of a pharmaceutical company and the bloke who sells laser-guided bombs to drop on babies to the American government, please let me know in the comments so we can point at you and laugh, all right? Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take it easy. Toodle pip. Cheers.